So a few days ago, Charlie Angus, Klaus Kellerman, and we each released our own video about this. A Maine state senator named Joseph E. Martin sent letters to Western Canada MLAs. In those letters, he laid out how Canada should join the United States. He said our provinces would benefit under the Great Constitution, and he even explained how ties to Canada would have to be given up, and how Canadians would need to assimilate to become US citizens. I'm glad Charlie and Klaus released their videos on the same morning as mine, because we need more Canadians to know what is actually happening. And it now looks like the mainstream media is finally catching up. I'm going to leave a link in my description to their videos, so definitely take a look at theirs if you haven't seen it yet. While all of this was unfolding, many of you stepped in. You told me you were outraged, and you sent Senator Martin your own replies. Some of you even showed me what you wrote and CC'd me on the email as well. Someone actually told me that my post was on r/BuyCanadian, which is a Canadian subreddit, where people actually started calling his office. I take no responsibility for that. So today, with the permission of those who reached out, I'm going to share some of the feedback that Canadians sent directly to him. And take note of these messages. They come from your fellow Canadians, and even one from an international ally, speaking on behalf of many of us. Now, before we start, today's backdrop comes from Brent in Roberts Bay, Vancouver Island. If you watched my channel, I did mention that I went fishing last year with my parents. This is where I went. Thanks, Brent, for sending it in. Just a public service announcement. Please double check the channel name when you're clicking on my videos, and make sure it's actually really my channel. All right, let's get into it. So the first one's from one of our community members. What he states is, Mr. Martin, at the time when trade tensions are rising and your governor is spending millions of dollars to attract Canadians to your state, why did you ever think that sending an unsolicited how to join the US letter to a Western province MLA was a good idea? You're either the most arrogant, smug, tone-deaf person in your state or severely retarded to think that any Canadian would want to join essentially become a shithole country that your taco president likes to talk about. The freedoms that you tout so highly about are being removed on a daily basis. The crime levels in your country are out of control. You have a felon running the criminal administration and the worst of the worst in the critical positions. You threaten allies, admire and support dictators, ignore the courts, jail and deport innocent people to their countries. Have a fascist agenda, encourage and ridiculous gun policy, ignore climate change and suffering on your own people, and then claim to be the greatest country on earth. Newsflash, you're not. Canada is the land of the free, inclusive and united. We tolerated your country's overbearing bullshit for long enough. Your orange buffoons' threats and insults have awakened our national pride and independence to a point where we don't even want to visit or vacation in the US. This year, Canadian visits are down almost 40%. Watch what happens next year. For those who are wondering how we should respond to your unsolicited invitation, there are various suggestions which can easily be summed up by saying that, even if most have promised never to return to the US, a vast majority would do so to shove it up your arrogant rear end. Go F yourself, elbows up. For privacy reasons, I've removed everybody's names, but well said. All right, let's move on to the next one. May I call you Joe? Listen, Joe, why the F would we Canadians lie down and give up our rights and freedoms in exchange for yours? You have less freedoms than Canadians enjoy. You have no healthcare or health research. You have a Gestapo rounding up innocent Americans. You have no civil orders. Your country has travel advisories from 11 countries against traveling to the US. Your country is becoming a third world state, while our economy is diversifying and thriving with other trading partners without the US involvement. You are a blue state, but you sound more like a hillbilly southern red state. Your letter is insulting, disrespectful, and sincere disgusting. You Americans do you. We Canadians will continue to boycott your alcohol, food, products, and as a matter of fact, Canadians are now boycotting everything American that includes the state of Maine, and your state won't have a budget by the end of the year. Your state is already hurting, and your letter has just made us even more anti-American. So my advice to you is to respect our nation's sovereignty, shut the F up with your 51st rhetoric, and most importantly, clean up the mess that your orange effed up felon is doing to your country and leave us Canadians the F alone. I'm going to do my best to try not to drop the F-bomb, but good message. All right, moving on to the next one. Brennan Day wrote a reply to you regarding your letter, as one politician to another. As a citizen of Canada, let me clarify a few things he was either too polite to mention or left out in the name of good relations. You mistakenly assume Canadians have no firearms. In fact, we do. However, they are regulated. Regulations which most of the world have adopted, except nations like yours that have a regular public mass shooting. We also believe, as most of the world does, with the exception of 3 countries, only one of them which is industrialized, in the right to healthcare. The US has more bankruptcy due to healthcare than the rest of the world combined. We are a distinct nation. We are a sovereign nation. We are respected around the world, something you lost when the president declared financial war on the world and started the 51st state rhetoric. If you or him actually desire the 51st state so much, then you should look at Puerto Rico as part of your country. Have you taken the time to send them the letter or something similar? We believe in individual rights. We also believe in public rights, like the right to travel to the mall or school without fear of being shot at, or having racial slurs or insults casted at you. The US Constitution is a remarkable document. So is the Bill of Rights. In today's day and age, however, they are casted aside when inconvenient, or questioned and appealed whenever the current administration feels like it conflicts with their political platform. You believe this to be rhetoric? Tell me, does an immigrant have the right to due process? Your Constitution is quite plain and exact about this. Let me put it another way. Does the innocent till proven guilty still mean something in your country? Or is it guilty until proven not an immigrant? Still confused? Do US citizens have the right to due process in other countries? You look north to Canada because you want better. You look north to Canada because you believe that parts of Canada would better the US. The truth is, you can't stand it that Canada is better without the US. In every measurable metric, category, and poll. We live longer, we have a better quality of life, we are better educated. It goes on and on. In conclusion, please ask your colleagues to stop begging Canadians to return. Go to Washington and fix what destroyed our relationship. Then start the process of mending what has been destroyed. Great letter to Senator Martin. The only issue is that Senator Martin is part of the problem. All right, moving on to the next one. Good morning, Mr. Martin. I do wonder if your open letter to Canada was done to get feedback rather than a genuine offer. This letter made people laugh and angry in equal measure. Seriously, you cannot be so stupid to think that any Canadian would want to become an American. Let's look at the facts. Number 1, health. Canada Universal Health versus USA Health Fraud Bankruptcy. And the numbers going bankrupt will go up with Trump's fat, ugly bill being passed. Education. Canada has one of the highest levels of education, in the top 10 and sometimes even top 5. USA doesn't even come close, hence the Trump voters. And also hence those guys who can't even point out Canada on a map. Trade. USA is on course for complete shutdown. Coca-Cola, Ford, and others are leaving. Canada is growing and building trade ties with Europe, China, and the rest of the world. Politics. Canada is a free country. If you don't like the leader, you can say you don't like him. Trump is a snowflake that hates anything nasty said about him. America is not the land of the free. Just look at the illegal ICE idiots. Nor the land of opportunity, as courts and IRS are never true and fair. So USA is categorically neither of those things, and until Americans wake up to the problem, this will just get worse. To be a first world, you need the health and education of your people to be prominent aims. As it stands, USA is a third world banana republic. So the bottom line is not whether Canadians should become American, but how long before American states request to become provinces of Canada. The double joke is, I'm not even Canadian, I'm British. If I and most of the world know how Canadians feel, Americans must be really stupid at a whole new depth if they think anyone wants to go there. Have a wonderful weekend avoiding reality. And a quick shout out to all of our international supporters. I think every Canadian hearing this does really appreciate that the rest of the world is coming together to support Canada. And you know that we would do the same for you guys as well. Now I've got about a dozen more sitting in my inbox. But if I read all of them, this video will be probably at least half an hour, 45 minutes. But if you'd like, I could always put together a second video later on. Let me know in the comments if you want me to create a second video. But for now, I want to shift over to some of the community feedback that I've noticed from my last video. I have sent the following emails to him. If you did not send this letter as a joke, then you are completely clueless. We do not want your American-style politics. You mentioned adherence to the US Constitution, but your orange-faced leader ignores the Constitution. We do not want any of your gun laws, which lead to many more murders. We do not want third world ICE-style raids in our country. Many Canadians have boycotted American products because of the stupidity and insulting language coming out of your country. If you have any more thought about Canada joining the US, keep them to yourself. Perhaps you should learn a little bit about our country and history before sending letters like this. It only makes us more determined to extricate ourselves from American influence. All right, moving on. I just sent the following email to Martin and Janet Mills. Good old Janet Mills. Dear Senator Martin and Governor Mills, as a Canadian citizen, I am outraged by the existence and tone of this recent letter from Senator Martin to Canadian Western provinces outlining a process and conditions for adoptions as states in the USA. Americans seem to not understand that the talk of annexation and joining America is deeply offensive to almost all Canadians. Also, the tone of the letter, making references to British monarchy's bilingual federal documents, moral decay, central authority, and bureaucratic suffocation reflects a level of insult, deprecation, and ignorance very becoming of an American senator. Governor Mills has recently visited Canada, expressing her desire for our relationship and tourism to return back to normal, and promising that travel to the US would be safe. These kind of statements in Senator Martin's letter contradicts her efforts, assertion, and promises. It would be best if Republicans halted their comments, efforts, and actions somehow to expand into Canada. Certainly, the longer it goes on, the less respect I have for the US, its government, and the viewpoints and opinions held by Americans. I really wonder what Governor Mills thinks of all this. I bet she's doing a bit of a facepalm right now. Senator Martin, your email proposing the annexation of Canada's states displays the usual American traits of ignorance and arrogance. Why would Canadians want to give up true freedom, a civilized public health system, and the friendship of the world just to join your isolated fascist dystopian nightmare that the USA is rapidly becoming? The USA is not the greatest country in the world, not by a long shot. It's a terrible place to be a blue-collar or middle class, and run solely for the benefit of the billionaires. No sane person or sane country would want to join that. Get over yourselves. Here's my message to Mr. Martin. Senator, are you serious? Just learned about your letter. I'm not Canadian, nor am I a US citizen. I'm German, and I firmly believe that the duty is to learn from history. I do wonder whether some subordinate German politician wrote a similar letter to Poland in the 1930s before the invasion actually started. I support Canadian elbows up, and I sincerely hope that the elbows in Europe and around the globe will be up against the USA. I know my cat's elbows are up. I'm pretty sure you guys can hear them. And just for the record, I can't kick my cat out, because if I kick the cat out of the room, it's going to start scratching on the doors. All right, last one for today. This one came to me on Blue Sky. Hey Joe, about your letter in regards to Canada joining the US, go F yourself. Signed, Nasty Canadian. All right, I'm going to finish this one up pretty quickly. As you can tell, my cat's getting louder. So why did I share these responses with you? It's because I want Canadians to see we're not alone in this fight. One member reached out to me by email thanking me for the channel. She told me in her own circle, nobody really shared the strong feelings about the boycott on the US. But after finding this community, reading the comments, and seeing others speak out, she realized she wasn't alone at all. And I think many of you can relate to that. The letters and emails that you sent to the US Senator say exactly what most of us are feeling. I only showed the PG-13 ones here. Some of them had more F-bombs than Josh from the Enemy Within channel. The point is, every one of these incidents, every insult aimed at Canada, every reckless thing that Trump says, it just pushes us further away from the United States. Even people that I know, who never really cared before, are now avoiding travel to the US altogether. That's why we need to keep this momentum going. If another senator decides to run his mouth about Canada, we don't let it slide. If Trump pulls another stunt, we double down. And let's not forget, this senator's letter wasn't just condescending. It was a direct attack on Canada, our sovereignty, and who we are as a country. But here's the good news. As I read through your emails, your Blue Sky posts, and your comments, I also saw something powerful. We're not standing alone. International allies, like those from the UK and Germany I featured in the video, are standing with Canada. They see what's happening and they're choosing to support us. That should give every Canadian watching this a total sense of pride, because our voice is being carried further than we think. So to all of our international viewers, I sincerely thank you. If you found this video helpful, hit the like and subscribe so the message reaches more people, and also share it with your friends as well. And if you're still here, check out the other videos on the screen right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, and I'm going to let my cat out.